Assalamu alaikum viewers. Today we are going to discuss Nawaz Sharif's case, who is in UK right now. And to discuss that, we have with us Barrister Karen Reid from UK. She's a good friend, and she's expert in human rights, immigration issues, judicial review, landlord and tenant cases, nationality and asylum cases, public law, housing. So she's almost everywhere. She's very busy, and she's regularly instructed to appear before the Asylum and Immigration Chamber of both the upper and first-tier tribunals in respect of all areas of immigration law, including asylum, as I said, human rights claims, and immigration bail proceedings. And then her particular expertise is in representing vulnerable clients, including unaccompanied minors, young people, and victims of trafficking. And she has experience in deprivation of nationality cases too. She also accepts instructions to draft representations, grounds of appeal, and to provide advice. So that is very important. And then, most importantly, prior to coming to the bar, Karen was employed as the head of advocacy and immigration for Afghan Association Pavand, a London-based refugee community organization. So we'll be talking about that too. So Karen has also advocated and advised on prevention from harassment injunctions and civil claims against government bodies, including the Home Office, which is the topic of today. So judicial review is a particular area of interest for Karen, and I'm very, very pleased to announce that she is a wonderful guest as well. And and you know what? She is very health conscious. She always goes to the gym daily. So did you go to the gym today, Karen?
I did. I was at the gym 7 a.m. UK time. So.
Yeah, so that's wonderful. That keeps you healthy and agile and active all day. Yeah, wonderful. So Karen, first of all, to start with at the outset, let me show you a report by our national daily, which is called Dawn, and that report says Nawaz Sharif's visa extension request rejected by the UK Home Office. And let me read it out to you. The UK Home Office has rejected a request by PMLN Supremo and former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif for an extension in his visa. And the UK Home Office has excused itself from further extending Mohammed Nawaz Sharif's visa. This is his spokesperson, Maryam Aurangzeb. And she said that the Home Office had stated that Nawaz could file an appeal against this decision in the Immigration Tribunal. Nawaz Sharif lawyers have already appealed filed appeal in British Immigration Tribunal. And she also said that the Home Office's order would not be effective until a decision on the appeal, and that Nawaz Sharif can reside in the UK legally until the appeal is decided. So Karen, tell us, what is the procedure from now on? Because it's almost a month-old story. But I just wanted to ask you, because you've been dealing with this all your life, practical life. How does things proceed now?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I should say is that we're largely speculating based on the information that's in the public domain. Right. But if somebody, so there are limited circumstances in UK immigration law where you would have a right of appeal. Okay. So one of the circumstances is if you make an application on human rights grounds and it's refused. The second is if you make an application on protection grounds. So for example, someone applying for asylum and it's refused. Right. And the third one is if your protection status is going to be revoked by the Home Office. Mm-hmm. So for there to be an appeal in this case, one of those applications would have to have been made. And I think given the information that's in the public domain, we assume that this was a human rights application that was made on medical grounds.
Yeah.
So now that an appeal has been lodged, that goes initially to the first tier tribunal, and there would be a hearing in the first tier tribunal. As with a lot of courts in the UK at the moment, there are quite big backlogs because of the COVID pandemic. So that could go on for many, many months. possibly even many years.
Years. So people should be ready to face this case for at least a year or two, maybe.
Possibly. I mean, there are many reasons why it might be faster. If there is a quick hearing listed, then judges in the UK are supposed to make decisions within 14 days of a hearing. For administrative reasons, decisions don't always come out within 14 days.
Right.
If the appeal is unsuccessful, then Nawaz Sharif might want to appeal to the upper tribunal. In order to do that, they need permission either from the first tier tribunal in the UK or from the upper tribunal in the UK. So there is an appeals process that could keep this going on, even if it's unsuccessful, for quite a long time.
So if he is allowed to go for the appeal to the next tribunal, that again takes years?
Probably not as long. The delays in the upper tribunal are not quite as significant because they've been running a lot of cases throughout the pandemic. But that could take a few more months as well.
Okay. So all in all, it can be like maybe 2 years or 3 years, right?
It could be. And I do have cases that I'm appealing at the moment in the upper tribunal that started in 2019. Right. But I also have cases that only started late last year. So in some circumstances, it goes much faster. And it's not necessarily due to the nature of the case or the people involved. It just sometimes cases get put in front of a caseworker who puts them through the system a lot faster than other people would. They get a judge who makes a quick decision. They are at the top of a pile for an allocation to a court, and they will move a bit faster.
Okay. So till then, the decision is made. He can live in the UK legally, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, in legal terms, it's called 3C leave, but your viewers probably don't need to know the intricacies of it. But essentially, if somebody is in the UK with a legal right to be here, and they make an application before their right to be here ends, then their leave continues, and it continues while any appeals are ongoing.
So what happens if the case is going on and your passport is expired? So what happens then?
It's an interesting one. Technically, it doesn't matter. Because the leave that you have is a sort of an automatic extension of your visa. Right. So it's not that the visa needs to be re-stamped into your passport with a new date or anything like that. But if the appeal was eventually successful and the person's passport had expired, they would need to get a new passport in order to have the new visa issued to them.
No, but his visa is still not expired as yet, because his passport is expired. But how about the visa? Is the visa expired too?
No, the visa continues. So, well, what I should say is I'm assuming that this application was made before his right to be in the UK ended. Right. So as long as the application was made before his right to be in the UK ended, then his visa will continue to be valid. If his visa, in fact, expired before this application was made, then he doesn't have a legal right to be in the UK, but he can't be removed from the UK until the appeal process is over. Okay.
And is there a special treatment for a high-profile case like this, or it is treated as a normal routine case?
It should be treated as a normal routine case, the same as every other
case. It is treated like that.
It should be, yes.
No, but the thing is that, you see, this gentleman is convicted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, right? He is a proclaimed offender declared by the Islamabad High Court. So there is no remedy of, in the UK laws?
Well, I should say I'm not an extradition lawyer,
Right.
but there's a difference between immigration law and extradition law. And from what I understand, there isn't currently an extradition treaty between the UK and Pakistan. Maybe if there was an extradition treaty, there might be applications being made. And I've seen that there have been, public open letters written by politicians to try and encourage Priti Patel and Boris Johnson to intervene and to ensure that that he is removed from the UK.
Yeah. So, but Karen, the problem is, you see, there is an impression worldwide that the UK laws are criminal friendly. People commit crimes in their countries, then play with the legal system in the UK. And then there is the delay, as you said, that there can be delay of years. Especially in this case, we are watching like Nawaz Sharif is actually the beneficiary of the whole thing. So do you think it's creating problem for the people worldwide, especially the poor governments?
That's interesting. I'm not sure how many people worldwide are playing with the system. I mean, as someone who has represented people who are facing deportation because they've committed criminal offences in the UK, I would say that our laws around the removal of foreign nationals who commit criminal offences here are actually very strict.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard to argue that you should have a right to stay in the UK on that basis. Mm-hmm. From what I understand of the Nawaz Sharif case, he had to seek permission. He didn't just have to get a visa to come here for medical treatment, but he had to seek permission from Pakistan to be allowed to come to the UK for medical treatment as well.
Right.
So it's not a case where he's been in the UK at the point when charges have been brought, mm-hmm. and Pakistan is seeking his return so that he can be tried, or he's been convicted and they're seeking his return so that he can serve his prison sentence. It's a scenario where, from what I understand, he had already been convicted, yeah. And he asked for permission to come to the UK to seek medical treatment. Yes. I mean, if you come to the UK for medical treatment, you come in on a visit visa for the purpose of medical treatment.
Right.
And I think from the side of Pakistan allowing him to come, I've read that he was only allowed to come for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of the UK granting a visa, that probably would have been granted as a 6-month visit visa.
Right.
The other issue we have that wouldn't normally happen is we've had a global pandemic.
Yeah.
The UK during the pandemic automatically extended visas because people couldn't travel out of the country, and to stem the flow of the pandemic, they didn't want people to travel out of the country. So it may be that that his visa previously was automatically extended because of COVID and under the COVID regulations, rather than he made an application for a further visit visa.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I mean, the other thing is the most recent extension, that if it seems to have a right of appeal, it cannot have been an application for a visit visa. So the most recent application must have been, as I said at the beginning, either a human rights application or an asylum application. Right. And we assume a human rights application based on medical grounds, because had it been a visit visa application, he wouldn't have a right of appeal.
Okay. You see, another thing which is very important is the money laundering. You know, people do money laundering, they get the money from their countries and bring it to the UK. Right. And I was reading National Crime Agency's report, and which said that the potential to threaten the UK's national security. Money laundering is the biggest problem, you know, for the UK's national security. And then another report which estimates from the NCA, and it estimates that the amount of money laundered in the UK could be between 36 billion and 90 billion pounds. And a study by the Transcrime Institute estimates that illicit markets in the EU generate about 110 billion euros annually. It is huge, Karen. And if there is no crackdown on these criminals, it can create a problems for the UK itself.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I do. I would completely agree. Yeah. I think the problem is that at the moment it's an immigration case. It's not a criminal case. It's not an extradition case. Yeah. It's a case of someone who's made an application to try and stay longer in the UK. And I mean, issues of money laundering and issues of criminality might be reasons why that visa application has been refused. Right. Without seeing the actual refusal letter from the Home Office, we don't know. But the reality is that there is a legal process and there is a right of appeal.
Yeah. And till that right of appeal and the whole process is consumed, he can stay there. He cannot be deported. Can he go for a political asylum?
Yeah, he could make an application for asylum. That is, I think, from my understanding publicly, he said he won't apply for asylum. But I mean, that's always open to anyone who feels that they need the protection of the United Kingdom for them to apply for asylum.
Right. So, see, basically, what you are saying is that he is safe and he is comfortable at least for another 2 or 3 years.
Well, I'm completely estimating. It could be much faster than that. I know a lot of lawyers
but have. You know the system. You know the system, and because there's a huge backlog of cases. So maybe that on the basis of that estimates, you are saying that it could be 2.5 years, right?
It could be. It could be. I would expect from I think it was the appeal was lodged at the beginning of August from what's seen in the media. Yes. So I would be surprised if there was a hearing this year. I would expect that the hearing might happen maybe at the very end of this year, maybe early next year. But it could be longer than that. And then with the opportunity to appeal to the upper tribunal, I would think that would extend it for further. So, I mean, the shortest period you could expect would probably be 6 to 9 months, and the longest period you could expect is in excess of a year. And it's not impossible that it could go to 2 years.
2 years, okay. Coming back to the Afghan issue, Karen, you've been dealing with Afghans all your practical life. What is the latest? Are you getting a lot of immigrants from Afghanistan as of today?
I mean, not so much as of today. You might have seen in the press that the UK announced a resettlement scheme for Afghan nationals, which is going to look to settle 5,000 Afghan nationals in the first year of the scheme, but up to 20,000. It's a similar scheme that was introduced for Syrian nationals a few years ago. It hasn't opened yet, so at the moment we can't actually make applications to the scheme. But there was a massive evacuation effort before the British forces and US forces left Afghanistan. So thousands of Afghan nationals who are either, well, mostly related to British citizens or worked for British organisations, perhaps worked for the Ministry of Defence in Afghanistan for the time that we were there, who have been evacuated and who are now in the UK with temporary visas, and it looks like they will be granted indefinite leave to remain in the UK, but it's all very uncertain at the moment, and we're waiting for more details of what the Home Office scheme is going to be. But I worked for an Afghan organisation, as you said, and I have a lot of Afghan clients who are already in the UK, obviously very worried about their families. Some of them have managed to get their family members into third countries where they're hoping that they might be able to apply for them to come to the UK. But it's very difficult. Obviously, 20,000 refugees from Afghanistan in the context of the whole population of Afghanistan is actually quite a small number. So,
but the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that anybody who is eligible to travel, Taliban must let them leave the country. So maybe you're expecting maybe a few thousands more.
Yeah, and I know that some of the land borders remain open, but the British evacuation flights, I think the last one left Afghanistan on Sunday evening, so there won't be any more British flights coming out of the country. From what I can't see how that could happen now. We know there are still British nationals in Afghanistan. We know that there are still people who have worked directly for the British government who are there. We know that there are people who've worked for organisations who've been assisting the British government who are there. Hopefully they can manage to get out and get to a third country, and hopefully then they'll be able to seek refuge either in the United Kingdom or in another country.
Tell us about your work with Pavand, the Afghan organization. What did you do there?
Yeah, so it seems like a very long time ago now. But when yes, I was fairly new. I hadn't fully qualified as a barrister yet at the time. And I applied for a job that was funded by the National Lottery, who fund a lot of charitable projects in the UK, as an advocate. So I was mostly dealing with refugees. I mean, it's an organisation that was set up by the Afghan community, but by the time I worked there, it had actually expanded to help refugees and asylum seekers from all different backgrounds. So I was mostly advocating for people who had issues with social housing, perhaps their benefit claims. Sometimes they had issues with their employers, lots of different things. And in doing that work, I realized that there was a massive gap in immigration advice, and lots of people were either receiving very bad immigration advice or had no access to immigration advice at all. So I qualified as an immigration advisor while I was in that role, so that I could give them some immigration advice, make applications for them and things. And then I came to the bar with a love for immigration law, which is what's brought me here.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. But, you know, there's a frank question, because a lot of people who are in immigration process, they are always, you know, facing the financial crunch. Are you guys providing them good services so far as their cases are concerned? Because sometimes I'm witness to a lot of people who face that kind of situation, and they have very less money. So in that case, what do you do? Do you provide them
well, I mean, for the last few weeks, and I'm not the only person who's done this, but we've not been charging for Afghan nationals. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze. We've not been charging fees for people who are trying to get their family members out. Unfortunately, there are some advisors out there who have been charging, but there's, I would say, at least 100 lawyers who've been volunteering to work for free to try and do what we can. There is also legal aid, so people in certain circumstances can get their legal fees paid by the government. That mostly applies to asylum cases, very occasionally to human rights cases, but not usually. You know, if you want to join your husband or your wife in the UK, or you want to bring your children over, or your parents over, you wouldn't usually get legal aid for that. I hope that we charge reasonable fees when we do it. But yeah, I know it's tough for people, and people are in desperate situations, and hopefully people get realistic advice, because sometimes there isn't a case there, and you shouldn't really be spending your money on it.
Okay, going back to the first topic, if Nawaz Sharif were to be your client, what advice you would give it to him?
I mean, that's quite difficult, because I haven't seen the application that he's made. And I don't know what medical treatment precisely he's receiving, and I don't know what the effect of that treatment ending would be. If he's applied to stay because of the effect of the treatment being removed, the legal test is very high. He would have to show that the the treatment would not be available in Pakistan, that the consequences of the treatment being withdrawn, you know, that would cause a really significant deterioration in his health over a relatively short period of time. It's very hard to show that. The cases that proceed on that basis very rarely succeed. If that's the only basis of his claim, I think my advice would be to seriously consider how likely that would be to succeed.
Right.
But without seeing his medical notes, without seeing the application he's made, it's quite hard to comment. And if the application is made on an entirely different basis, then we just don't know, really.
Last question, Karen, before you leave, about the money laundering, because this is my personal concern. This is concern for all the developing countries. Is there any feeling among UK decision makers, politicians, even lawyers, to fix these laws? People take advantage of those laws, and UK has become a safe haven for the whole world, whole criminals, all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's nothing that I'm aware of to crack down on sort of mass money laundering through the UK. I know as lawyers, we have quite strict conditions that we have to meet in terms of money laundering and checking where funds come from. And we have various institutions in the UK who are responsible for cracking down on money laundering. But I'm not a criminal lawyer, so it's not my area of expertise, unfortunately.
I know, but thank you very much for your time, Karen. It was a pleasure talking to you, and it was very educational for us as viewers and as people who are from developing countries, because I just wanted to share our concerns to you and how people think all over the world, because this is what is, bringing those countries to their knees, because they are poor countries and they need funds, you see, and their funds are sitting in the UK. So that's something which is, serious. But I really thank you for your time, and hopefully by the time we talk next, that Nawaz Sharif case should be heard and should.
I hope so.
Yeah. So thank you for your time, and I will see you soon. Thank you very much, and have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.